J-O-E in the place to be. HB on the track, it's like ecstasy. Rowing a well of 7 years, what we drink and be. Trying to sling the dopest rhymes in the galaxy. Let me take a minute though and relax your mind. Sometimes these words can be hard to find. 24/7 on that daily grind. Hearing voices in my head, man, they not that kind. Cause bitches be bitching, snitches keep snitching. The world keeps turning, and I keep hitching a ride instead of living my life. Yo.
Man, when you feel hungry, don't you have to eat?
Yo, pump up the volume and digest this beat.
Rapscallions in the house with this lyrical truth.
When we're done with you, you're gonna ice your feet.
If the world ends tomorrow and you had one chance,
Hey yo, would you start the move like it's your last dance?
yo, do something small in the past and present changes.
Do something now, the future rearranges.
Cause bitches keep bitching.
Yo, snitches keep snitching.
The world keeps turning.
And you start living your life instead of hitching a ride. Rapscallions.
Welcome everyone. This is Rapping with Rapscallions. Looks like our camera angle's a little skewed.
Oh no!
Well, that's how we have to do it. It's episode number 1 of season 2. So we're gonna do some wild effects here, ladies and gentlemen, while you listen to my beautiful voice. This is HB2E. Next to me is the other 0.5 of the Rapscallions, Joe Mosquita. Joe, how you doing? Talk to these people while I fix the video.
Up, everyone. We're here, both of us. I promise, in the same place. This is not an effect. We are together, and it feels so good, reunited. And now there the camera's fixed. I can see on the stream that we are now both visible, HB.
That's right.
Good job.
Glad all the Famscallions. I hope you guys are all tuned in because today's going to be an amazing show. We have a lot cooked up for you guys because this is episode number 1 of season 2. That's amazing. And our guest today is Raul Altamar. This guy's a writer. This guy's a rocker. This guy's a skater. And this guy's a historian.
Man,
so
what doesn't he do, man? He does it all.
Now, hopefully he can cure COVID. No say. We're going to ask him.
I think it's possible. I believe in him.
So we're going to talk about all his books, all his journalism, his copywriting. And then on the second hour of the show, we're going to do like a round table because I'm a Zonian. Joe's a Panamanian. And Raul's a Panamanian who has written and studied and researched a lot about the Canal Zone. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a good opportunity to do a little round table to get some different perspectives, to ask each other questions, and kind of like talk about stuff. It'll be fun. Mm-hmm. But first, it's the Rapping with Rapscallions weekly wrap-up. How was your week, my friend?
My week was pretty good. It started off on the right foot. As you know, I was going for Italy in the Euro Cup, so I was very happy to see Italy win the Euro Cup. I was very excited.
And guess who predicted that?
We did.
That's
we predicted it
in our Euro Cup episode. Mm-hmm. Scroll down and watch that, and we predicted Italy against England and that Italy would prevail.
Yep. So if you guys are betting people, you guys should have bet.
You'd have made money.
You could have made mad money, like the money that we did not make.
Yeah, we put all of our money into streaming and cameras and microphones.
That's right. We don't have time to bet our money on useless things.
Speaking of which, go to our website, PanamaRP.com. You can catch all of our streams. We're on podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts now. And we'll be adding all the old episodes so you guys can check it out. And also, there's also donate buttons there, people. Mm-hmm. There's also donate buttons. And you can see the live stream from there. Maybe you're at your granny's house and granny says, I don't have Facebook. PanamaRP.com has the live stream right there. You don't even have to think about it.
That's right. Your granny will be happier than she has ever been.
Yeah.
Ever been. HB, how's your week been, my friend?
Man, well, I've been looking forward to this point. I've been reading a lot of Raul's stuff. Yeah. I've known him for a while. And this week, the Rapscallions had an excellent event. With the pandemic, we haven't been able to perform. Of course, this is our creative outlet. Tell the people what we did on Friday.
Guys, we had the opportunity to do improv before an actual group of people. It wasn't virtual. It was us and CMX, Karina Weber. We were performing improv before like about 26 people. A company called IW Panama called us up. They said, hey, Rapscallion, you guys are the bomb. Diggity. We want you guys to come over and help us, man, entertain us.
And of course, we took all the necessary precautions.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big conference room, big U table. We had masks on with microphones so that we could project and stuff.
It was really great. They actually supplied us with all the equipment that we needed so we could express ourselves and perform. They were super collaborative. They super enjoyed it. Gave a lot of good suggestions. And for that 1 hour, it felt like we were back in pre-pandemic times.
Yeah. We were free. What else do we have to talk about? Do we have any other bases to cover before we bring out Raul on?
Man, just one more. I really want to bring Raul on. I'm super excited. But we also have to talk about Panama being in the Gold Cup.
Oh, yes.
Panama being in the Gold Cup, man. What an exciting time. Yeah. I think all of us are always excited when the Gold Cup rolls around, man. We had our first game against Asian champions Qatar.
Yes.
Tied 3-3.
Yeah.
Which was pretty fun.
That was a high energy game.
It was.
It showed even though we scored, there was some high scoring. It showed a lot of cracks in the defense, which I think kind of predicted what happened last night. Yeah.
Because last night, I think, again, the cracks were there in the defense. We lost 3-2 to Honduras, unfortunately. So now we have a do or die game against Grenada. Man, the defense, man. We got to get our act together in the defense. But I think we have a lot of key players in the defense that are not present for the tournament. So that kind of, it hurts us a bit.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can get a good result, man. Todos vamos con Panamá.
Exacto. Marea Roja.
Mm-hmm.
Caramba. All right, let's get to our guest. He's having a good time listening to us make fools of ourselves. So let's bring him on so we can all make fools of each other.
3 fools, yay!
Epa!
Ay, caramba!
There we go, Raul's on.
Ay, caramba!
Bienvenido, Raul. Thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers to you. Thank you for inviting me.
Cheers.
Cheers to all the fam scallions out there watching us.
Happy Sunday to you all.
Happy Sunday. Now, we're so happy to hear you and to have you here. I made I asked a question that's pretty tough, but can you briefly answer in 5 sentences or less?
Wait.
Oh, I forgot. Go.
There's one key thing that we need to ask you, Raul, before we officially start this interview, okay?
True.
Am I wearing pants?
2 key things that we need to ask you. The first one is, are you wearing pants? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. And the second one, how was your week, man?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Thank you. I had a very relaxed week. I had a big deadline for Monday.
Oh, we lost some sound. Looks like we had a little internet duck out.
Oh, Raul, are you there?
It looks like his internet dropped out, so we'll keep talking. We'll keep talking while, of course, it can't be a show without a little bit of internet difficulties. So that's par for the course. As soon as he comes back, we'll switch right back over.
But Rapscallions, man, we overcome adversity, and our guests do too. Our fam scallions are in it to win it, nonstop, 24/7. So we're sure that Raul will be back online with us in no time.
Mm-hmm.
In the meanwhile, HB, I guess I can tell you some of my thoughts on the Panama game.
Yes, please.
May I tell you, man?
Please.
Raul's back.
Where's Raul?
Raul, where are you?
Wait, Raul,
are you here?
Can you? Are you alive? There he is.
Oh, he's back.
Am I there?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about your week, Raul.
The light just went out at my house.
Oh
my goodness. Hey, you came back quick, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm using the internet from my phone.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway.
Yeah. Wow. We appreciate that.
Well, yeah. Anyways, no, but just a coincidence. Anyway, I finished editing a novel that I was working on for 2 months with another writer. So I was happy about that. I had rehearsals for a show that I had yesterday, just like you. This is my second live performance that I've had since the pandemic. So
nice.
It felt really good. So I share that feeling with you guys. And the show was yesterday, but I had 2 rehearsals over the week. And I got to go back to skating because I had stopped doing it for like 2 weeks because of this deadline that I was working on. So my week had a deadline delivery, a rock show, and some skating. And so it was a good week.
Ah, very good, very good.
That sounds really cool, man.
You asked. You asked. So
Yeah. No, I wish I love the fact that you skate, man. I've always been scared to skate because
you should,
I'm afraid I'm gonna fall down and hurt myself.
and you will. Yes, that's part of it. That's part of it. Yes.
I like that. I added that. I knew that you skated from just seeing your Facebook and Instagram, but I also added that because in another interview that we did with Rudy Waller, motocross champ, we asked him.
Oh wow! Yeah.
We asked him. He's like, "What do you think is one of the things that most helped you in life?" He said, "Being a skater." And we're like, "Really? Wow!" And we're like, "Why?" He's like, "Because when you skate, they tell you can't skate here. You have to find a place." And if you want a half pipe or a quarter pipe, you have to build.
You have to make it.
And if you want to sell T-shirts, you make your own T-shirts.
No doubt.
So that kind of mentality for him is what he said most helped him become a champion.
True.
So that's great. Yeah.
So after hearing that, hearing that and then seeing that you skated, I was like, I'm adding that.
No doubt. And it just speaks to the incredible work ethic that you have, Raul, because you've had a busy week.
Oh, I could say more. I had a drum lesson that I teach for a kid, a friend of mine. Teaching him drums. I started a new project with a new client. I do a lot of copywriting for companies that need either text for or contact for their web pages or magazines or their blogs. And there's a company, I don't know if you know it, Jazz, a logistics company like Panalpina or DHL. I'm doing copywriting for them, so I had a meeting with them. So that was also part of the week.
Oh, very cool. Well, I think you've already answered some of the questions, but I wanted to ask you in 5 sentences or less.
Yes, sorry.
Who is Raul Altamar?
Communicator and a collaborator.
I like it.
That likes his country. A communicator and a collaborator that likes his country.
I like that.
Meaning that meaning Panama.
Belleza.
That's the shortest I can put it.
That was very succinctly and well put.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of being an editor. When you're an editor, you learn how to edit yourself and cut yourself and know how much to say, how much not to say. I've done public relations as well, and doing speeches is actually a pet peeve of mine. I love doing speeches, and whenever I can, I enjoy that as well. I've done a couple of scripts, not for theater but for documentaries. But you learn to say exactly what you need to say when you need to say it, no more nor less, and just. But when you do literature or more creative work, that's when you can maybe go all out. But still, you have to measure yourself.
Exactly. Having said that, Joe has a nice introduction of the things that you've done.
Sure.
Take it away, Joe.
Well, creatively, Raul Altamar is someone who has done many things. HB already mentioned all the hats that you wear, which is super impressive because I thought I had a lot of hats.
I read we share a couple of hats. I also have I'm also a locutor.
See, there you go.
There we go. Yeah. 3 locutores in one video. The audience is gonna love it.
Oh my gosh. But just to talk about some of the creative things that you do, Raul, you are the singer and main composer writer for the alternative rock group UVA.
Yes.
UVA, which means grape.
Yes.
In English. And you are also the drummer for the bands Los Chambons, Marco Luque, y Sonó.
Yes.
That is incredible, man. That is incredible.
Sorry, go ahead. There are 2 new projects. There are 2 new projects now.
Really? Can we know? What are they?
Different guys putting out records that I'm helping them with their drums, but they already have the music, the songs, but they need the drum part, so I'm working with them. But they're 2 totally different. But they're all friends from way back in the day, whatever. But yes, new music as well.
Awesome. Lots of music.
That's really cool.
Talk about some of his what he's published.
Well, he's published 5 books in total. And as we said, in music, you've recorded over a dozen different projects.
Yes.
Which is incredible. And as a curator, you've also supported exhibitions at museums and galleries.
Yes. Yes.
So that is very, very cool. You've written. Sorry, go ahead.
I had a meeting with a new show that I'm curating for La Alianza Francesa next month. So I had a meeting with them on Wednesday. That was also in my week. Now that's what I did my whole week.
Man.
I don't know how you juggle all this stuff, but I like it.
Seriously. A lot of moving and shaking, man. A lot of moving and shaking.
All right. So
not really. Looks like it, but yeah.
You keep busy, that's for sure.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so some of the things that Raul has written, has published. Let's see. We have.
By the way, am I the first guest of yours to smoke?
Yeah, I think so. You are. So congratulations.
Thank you, Internet.
That's right.
Can I cuss as well?
Sure,
man.
Okay.
Hey, whatever makes you feel comfortable, my friend. That's what Rapping with Rapscallions is all about.
That's right. I'm sure the fam scallions out there have heard it all.
That's right.
You can say that again.
All right. As far as publications, we have El Libertad Editorial, escrito sobre el Panamá postmoderno. That was in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
2012, you got first place in el concurso de arte del trabajador. That's interesting. Also, Purgatorio Tropical. I need to download that one to read it. That's on my list.
Yeah, that one's definitely one I want to check out for sure.
In 2014, Una Vida Real, un estudio e historias sobre el estilo de vida del panameño de hoy.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to hear more about your next book, Fermín Chan, Un Legado de Unidad. That sounds very interesting. And the book that I've been reading is Nuevo Paraíso. I only about the first third of the way through it. So far, I like it. I like your flow. You got a nice flow, a nice world building. And I have one very important question. Do you eat pineapple Hawaiian pizza?
Alas, I do.
I knew it.
Okay.
I knew it.
It's okay.
I could feel some of your inspiration.
I'm drinking rosé wine. What do you think, man? No, yeah, I take it seriously. It's my sister's favorite pizza, so I get to share it with her.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm a pepperoni guy myself, but if it's there, and actually not to plug them, but Athens putting that honey on top really makes it. So it's a weird thing, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah. As soon as I read that in the book, I was like, I'm going to ask him if that was part of your own personality coming out into the character.
Yes.
Oh, that's excellent, man. Because let me tell you, I am a pepperoni pizza man myself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go wrong with pepperoni pizza. But I have received a lot of flack from people I know throughout the years because if there's a pineapple pizza in front of me, I will eat it. I will not turn it away. I mean, it's delicious.
Hey, you get a little sweetness and fiber with your pizza, man.
Yeah.
I love pineapple.
It's
I
good
love
for your
pineapple.
health.
I love pizza.
Sweetness and fiber with my pizza.
That's right. What more could you want?
All it's lacking is rum or wine. Also, I wanted to mention you guys need to check out his blog, altamarescribe.com. Lots of interesting articles. I read through a lot of them. I want to ask, how did you collect so much experience with pornography?
By watching it since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And with the advent of internet, it's not that it has increased, but it has kept the stable. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I was just roasting Raul a little bit. I want you guys to check out his blog. He wrote I guess like not an interpretation, but a diagnosis or kind of like finding the origins of different types of, let's say, like MILF stuff, and
saying things that haven't been said before, though, that everybody was thinking about.
Exactly. That's right.
Exactly. And what popped up right after I read that was it was weird because there was the black on white, which was very in depth,
Yeah.
and right after that on my internet, because the internet's always listened to us.
Yeah,
was,
for sure.
Yes.
Why Denzel Washington won't have kissing scenes with white women?
Oh.
And I thought,
fact.
and when I read it, I was surprised because it's because
Wow.
the black women get angry.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Do you know about Denzel's finger?
No, I didn't. What?
He has a deformed pinky finger. It's like this. It's like a hook pinky, and he always hides it. That's why he always walks like that with his hand like that.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah. Fun fact about Denzel.
Man, I didn't
actually,
know.
And actually, I have a dog, a Rottweiler named Denzel, and another one named Morgan. Yeah, Denzel
cool.
and Morgan.
Excellent.
They're my dad's dogs.
Very cool. I just got a new puppy named Sunday.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. Some of the other interesting articles. There was a great article on Shorty and Slim.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, very good.
The article.
Yeah, a great article where you say that you say you don't understand why more people haven't heard them. They're the best kept secret.
Yeah.
In Panama. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about your inspirations for that article?
Okay, so everyone loves Ruben Blades. Everyone loves Rabanes. Everyone loves Pedrito Altamiranda because they're essentially Panamanian. They talk about a lot of Panamanian culture. They sound like Panamanians. They have their accent throughout their singing voices.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Panamanian culture in all of these artists' music, and Shorty and Slim has all that in spades. And on top of that, there's their culture, which is the Canal Zone culture, which is not even it's even a part of it because it's Panamanian culture and Canal Zone culture as well.
Yeah.
Because you have songs like Camarón or a couple
Puro
of other
tiling,
songs.
tiling.
Puro tiling, tilina, paleta, but you also have the patio sale at the PCC. I love that song. And other more Canal Zone oriented songs, but Life on Mango Street, of course.
Yeah.
So for me, they have all these musical values that these other great artists have. And as well, they represent their culture quite well, and they're also excellent musicians. They're all very premium. They would be like great session players, all of them.
Oh yeah.
And in their musicianship, so all those things make them fantastic. And the thing is that they've kept to themselves and to their own groups or to their own following. Even and there was also a time when I'm sure Alex has told you about what the last couple of years when they actually weren't having that much activity, and they came back a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they have a back catalog of 5 records that are really, really good. I listened to them recently, and they hold up very, very well. There's this song, Taboga, or the romantic Henry Morgan, man. Those are epic fucking songs, man.
Yeah.
About Panamanian history, and if I think they have their music on Spotify or wherever. They should have it online somewhere.
Panama.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
Because it needs just as long as it's out there, they've done their job, and since they're playing now, they're reactivating themselves, so to speak.
Sure.
Hope they get more shows outside. What's the place? The Balboa Yacht Club, or Magoo Fish Tacos, or all these places are really great. But I would love to see them at Carnavales. I would love to see them and all these summer festivals that they have now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they will do that eventually.
Yeah. They are excellent musicians. We've had the fortune of collaborating with them on a few songs.
Yeah.
Panama City, we actually wrote that for them to celebrate.
Yeah, you rapped. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we wrote that, and then we were also on one of their songs on their Christmas album that they dropped last year.
Yeah.
The Christmas Tree Burn.
The Panama City one, you did the Spanish and the English one, right? Because
yes.
They have both versions. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great.
It was really fun to be able to collaborate
Cheers
with
to
them
that,
on
man.
One.
Cheers.
For sure. Cheers.
Here's to music.
Definitely.
Now you're songwriters as well. You two guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, man. Yeah. And Dave said the same thing. He's like, "Oh, welcome to writing music. Now you're going down that rabbit hole." You know?
Well, I've seen Joe improvise at the improv, a bunch of rhymes. Also, whenever you're with
Andres?
No. Jerry D,
Yeah.
For sure.
who I also allude to in the book.
Okay.
I allude to
Oh yeah, I read that. Her favorite radio station when she's driving to work.
an English guy. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I've listened to you. You've been there, right? And you've thrown a couple of lines.
For sure.
With the ukulele. And...
Yeah. No, it's definitely a good place to go. And it's one of those things where I totally understand what you mean about having to keep sentences short, right? Because when you're sometimes when you're rapping, when you're writing songs or whatever, you sometimes got to get to the point, man. You don't have that much time to really elaborate everything you're trying to say. So you're just like, how can I say this really long thought in a couple of words? So
narrow it down. Yes.
And I think that's one of the things when we were writing Panama City, and Alex was singing it, he was telling us like, man, you guys are really making me have to work on my breath because we were writing it in a sense like rap.
We were trying to get as much history as we could.
Come on, Pops, you can do it. Jesus.
So he was doing breathing exercises. He was like, man, I got to bring out the younger Slim from back in the day.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got it. Yeah. He's got it in him. Yeah, for sure.
For sure, totally.
That's good. But great collab, man, and glad you did that.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna send you a couple songs. What do you think?
Yeah, well,
cool. Another article.
That would be a thing. The songs that I write and the music that I write, it's totally different vibe or content from my work in books. It's my writing in music is mostly about my obsessions with women and love and sex, basically, and relationships, and nothing that much to do with what I write. So yeah. So it would be different for me to do like a rap song or a more funky or happy kind of thing. And mostly melancholy on my music.
Well, we'll see if the rapscallions can, if we can
liven me up.
We can liven you up, boost up your state of mind.
Yo, I bet you like 311.
311,
the band.
Yeah.
That's the middle ground for rockers and rappers and people who don't like fully like hip hop. When 311 came out, I don't know, for people who don't know, 311 is a band from Omaha, Nebraska that came up in the 90s, and they mixed hip hop and not hip hop, like rap with reggae and rock very seamlessly.
Yes.
And when all my Panamanian friends who weren't in, my neighbors who weren't into rock and were into reggae and that sort of thing, when 311 came out, man, they're playing the same beats. It's the same thing. They were like, no, I don't know. But eventually they got it and they listened to it. But yeah. Sorry.
That's fun. Speaking of hip hop, Ralph Furlong's tuned in, and he has something very important to say. He says, "I say a hip, a hop, a hippie to the hip, a hip hop to the hip hop, the bop,
he wrote it.
To the booty, the beep." I didn't do a very good job, but
I can't even spell that.
That's a Ralph Furlong original right there,
Ralph
my friend.
Original. Another article that I enjoyed also was the one about Los Inocentes, which is a play. A very interesting play. And did you know, Raul, that I was the voice on the loudspeaker in that play?
The bank. You were the boss.
Yeah.
The big boss,
okay.
Henry.
I just recorded my voice and I sent it to them. And
that's the bank. That's the Banismo in front of the country store. Next to the 24 Horas.
If it's the Chase, though, then it's next to Teatro Panama on the corner. I'll say that's why I wanted to ask you if it was.
No, it's. I think it's the one next to El 24 Horas, the Diablo, in front of the country store.
Okay.
Banismo now.
Yeah, it's a Banismo now. Yeah.
by the traffic light.
Cool. Yeah.
There's a dead Corvette in the back. There's a dead white Corvette parked in the back. I don't know if you've seen it. A white, like 1983 Corvette on stilts. Really depressing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Behind, I'm gonna have to check for that next time I
we're
drive
gonna go
past
have
there.
to steal that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna check it out.
man.
So, we talked about some of your bodies of work, and I wanted to include both your blog, your written work, your copywriting work. Is there any one piece of work that you're most proud of?
That's a good question.
That was I saw a question. The novel that I just published, because it's the most, the deepest, the longest, the most thought out writing project that I've ever done. The most personal, the most ambitious, because when I started writing in magazines, I was a magazine editor. I did that for like 10 years. I did all types of magazines. I even did a magazine for the Cayuco race that actually didn't come out. I
Wow.
interviewed, I interviewed Bobby, who's the guy who, the Bobby.
No way. What's his name? Oh my God, I'm seeing him in my mind right now.
It's not Bobby something, is, you know that?
Yeah, the guy who'd be on the
fat
boat.
guy.
He'd be on
Yeah.
like a dinghy, and
Yeah,
he'd
yeah,
have
yeah,
a thing.
That's
and
Johnny
he'd always
Bates.
Johnny Bates.
Johnny Bates.
Johnny
I
Bates.
interviewed
Johnny
Johnny
Bates.
Bates. Well, anyway, I worked on that, but I'll get to my point. I worked on magazines a lot, which meant I did all types of journalistic work, editing, writing columns, writing interviews, articles, all that. Then when I started freelancing, I started doing internet work, which was different and coming up as a new source of work and income. And then social media, which is also different. And on the parallel, in my writing, when you're a journalist, everything's very detailed. You have so much space, and very little space. So many words, you have to write according to the public of your magazine or newspaper or whatever. But when I jumped into literature, I started doing like sort of essays, which were more like open, and short stories. And then the difference between a story and a novel is that a novel is it's bigger. A short story can be a paragraph, 1 page, 3 pages, or even 20 pages. But well, not a short story, but story. Yeah. But a novel is basically around 60,000 words, and or like around 200 pages in Word, in a Word document, half space. And the thing is that in stories, you have to resolve everything very quickly or leave a lot of things unsaid to work for the story. But in a novel, the character has to have the, what's this?
Arc. The story arc.
The arc.
Sure.
The arc, yes. And it has to start, the main character has to start somewhere and then end up in another place. And you have deeper things that you can explore. So yes, I think I've trained myself to work on a novel. A lot of other writers do their first novel first, or don't work on.
Isn't that a trap though, where people start with a novel?
Well, it could be, because that's another thing. Books are not written quickly. They're projects that mostly take time. Some people spend years writing one book, or their one and only book, or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, because I'm because of my training as a journalist, I'm very efficient in my writing and my timing. So I know what I can produce and how much it takes me to do it. And for example, this novel, I thought about it and planned it for 4 years, and I wrote it in 4 months.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
4 months. 4 months. Yeah, and I was able to do that, first of all, because the pandemic broke and quarantine hit. So I it's not that I had more time to do it, because I'm a freelance. I've been working on my own for over 10 years. So I'm used to working at home. I'm used to, this is actually my back office. in my terrace.
I like that.
And this is my view when I'm working. And
Excellent.
so yeah, I was okay with having the time to do it, but I've scheduled my time for doing it last year. I had to finish other projects. I had to finish another book. I had to finish a record, 2 records. And when all those things were done, then I was said, okay, I'm gonna get into the novel. And then I got into the novel. The pandemic hit, so I had more time in a way to do it, and I finished it coincidingly with the deadline for the Ricardo Miró contest or award, the Ricardo Miró Award, which is a literary award here in Panama. Most writers, or not most writers, a lot of writers tend to do that. Like use the I have to submit that on June. So
deadlines help.
I'm gonna use
Right,
it.
for sure. Yeah.
So
I do
did
have a
that,
question about that, Raul. You used a pen name. Can you explain to us why you chose that name, and is there any inspiration behind that?
You don't know the pen name that I use, right? You're just asking.
No, it was in the back of the book, but I don't have the book at hand.
Oh yeah, Micaela is my mom's first name.
Oh, cool.
Micaela.
Nice.
And before I've used my grandfather's names.
Is there any specific reason for that, or is just creativity?
Family related names? No, family related. Some people put like Black Star or the Midnight Poet.
The Midnight
or
Poet.
Some weird name. I was like, dude, use a real name, that can relate to you. Right?
For sure.
Now, you've said some things that are very interesting to me. I wanted to ask you if there's any aspiring writers out there. Do you have any tips and tricks, because you seem to be very organized?
Yes.
What do you recommend to them to develop their writing skills?
Like right now I have 5 books under my supervision by other new writers. One, like I just said at the beginning, is just finishing his second novel and working on a third one. Another just put out his second one in English, which is I'm really proud of that, because I edited a work in English. And I have 3 other new works by new writers who just came up to me through contacts, and they say I want to write a book. Help me out. I develop a plan for them, sort of like a mentorship / consultancy for according to their needs or their projects. And the first advice, to answer your question, would be to organize your ideas. There are 2 ways to do that. You can make an outline of your story, like an indice or an index. Like this would be the first chapter, this would be the second one, this would be all the way up till you finish. And another would be the summary. You can start by doing a 1-page summary of your work or your book, then work on a half-page summary, and then narrow it down to a 1-paragraph summary of the story. So either the index or the outline, together with the sort of like what's the word?
Just descriptions that you make.
The blurb. The actual word is the blurb.
The blurb
for the book. That would help you define. Okay, this is the big idea. So now, how do I work on it day by day? Yeah.
Excellent
Wow.
tips there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I just wanted to know, is this also a way that you do, like, because it seems like a good technique to kind of, get your idea fresh in your mind and sort of really structure your approach to it and what you want to achieve. So is this a similar way that you would say that you would use to tackle a creative block, or what would you do?
No, it works differently for different people. For example, for me, I write everything in my head first, and then I write it. So when I'm actually writing it, I don't work on it a lot. I know that that's the main thing, and I usually just revise it, but not revise it like oh, I'm working on my third fucking draft. No,
rewriting is death.
It's a bitch.
Yes.
But some people do need to work and write it again and revise it again. And another thing for me, since I've learned to organize my ideas, when I like the novel, there are lots of different details about me, about my friends, about life in the novel. I planned the outline, but there are certain details that I just came to me that day that I sat down and wrote them.
Right.
So that's where for my part, I try to keep it open or fresh, or let the idea or the little details come to me.
Sure. Like by being organized, you leave space for magic.
Yeah, but this other project that I just finished, it's a fantasy novel, sort of like Lord of the Rings kind of fantasy, a Tolkien thing. I'm actually a big fan of Tolkien. This is Tolkien's signature right here, for the geeks out there. And
cool.
This guy wrote a fantasy novel in that way. There are languages, there's ancient history, there are spells, there are in other tongues and things. And he really had to work on that a lot.
I bet.
And do a lot of research and came up with mythical animals from Celtic history that weren't as popular in other current fantasy stories. So that requires a lot of work. So yeah, it depends. To answer your question, Joe, it depends on the type of project that you're working on and what type of writer you are, or what experience do you have writing, to say how do you work through creative block, or how do you approach your writing. The main thing for you to do is to actually sit down and write. So another key thing that I say to people is, okay, you have to actually do the work. So assign yourself a schedule, a weekly schedule. Suppose that this is not your what you do for work. This is something you do in your time off. So like, okay, I only have weekends to write, or in the evenings where after I have dinner and I'm shower before going to bed. Okay, have yourself 1 hour or 2 hours. Let's say 3 days a week to get started. That's 6 hours a week. If you commit to that and you start working on that, after a while you see that you're able to do more than those 2 or 1 hour, and that will help you get the juices flowing.
Nice.
And that's key, I think, because sometimes people have an idea. They're like, oh, I have this great idea. And then they're all of a sudden like, oh, but I never have time.
The world is fucking full of good ideas. People that this is very common within the arts. I worked with musicians, with writers, and with artists, and the main thing that I see throughout is follow through. The ones that are good, or the ones that have tenacity are the ones that follow through and do the work and have work every year or every certain time, instead of thinking about it and eventually getting to it and 5 years later. Like, for example, this band Los Chambons that I play with, they're great musicians, very on the same level of Shirley Slim, actually. Very, very good musicians. They're older than me. They're the same age as them. They got together in 2008. They put out. They didn't put out. They put out 2 songs, played a couple of shows, totally disappeared, came back, called me as a drummer. We rehearsed for 2 years. We played 2 shows, and just now they recorded 4 songs. They have a repertoire of like maybe 15 songs. They're fantastic songs, fantastic pop songs, pop rock songs, but the 3 of them are Toros, and I think Toroses are they tend to stand their grounds and don't follow through as much. And if those guys could have followed through years ago, they would have done better than they've done now. I'm really glad that we recorded these 4 songs that we did last year, and we're still working on them. But that's a thing, and not to diss them or any ways. I'm actually praising them. They're very good musicians.
Sure.
But a lot of life has been around them and work and shit. But if they had more time and more resources, they could have done that. That's also another thing that helps, Joe, to have the time and the resources to work on stuff.
Very
No
aware.
shit.
Very
Hey,
aware of
Okay,
resources.
so you've got your finger on the pulse. Are there any other bands out there that we should be listening or
Yes.
should be in our playlist?
Totally.
Oh, I'm gonna try to not be obvious and say
Uva,
different artists. No. I'm not.
Sonos.
Not any of not any of my work. There's this new guy, Carlos Ballarino, who's a singer-songwriter. He's kind of fun. Carlos Ballarino, a bit on the Carlos Mendez side.
Okay.
Cantautor.
Cantautor, soulful, Panamanian, funky, but he's good. He's cool. And Carlos Ballarino. Who else? Well,
How
trivia.
do we get Gonzalo back in the studio, man? Come on.
Gonzalo. Who's Gonzalo?
Orna.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm working on that. My favorite Panamanian band, actually, this is a good Canal Zone trivia. What independent rock band has a cover artwork of their only record, which is a watercolor of a view of the Gatun Lake?
I don't know.
You don't know. It's called El Papo Vecino.
El Papo Vecino.
El Papo Vecino. They're, Senor Loop?
Uh-huh.
The drummer is Senor Loop, Chale Casa. This is his band with his wife. And it's a very indie band, very in Stereolab and, I don't know, very ambient kind of thing. But for me, they're my favorite Panamanian rock band. And yeah, they have this album out.
That guy's talented, man. Because I drum like this much. You drum. You're a great drummer. That guy's hot, man.
Yeah, Chale went. He studied that. He works on it. I'm a musician by ear. I can't read for shit. Chale, actually, Chale was in my school. I went to Colegio Javier.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know that, but Colegio Javier has produced a lot of musicians.
I didn't know
Carlos Mendez is from Javier. Cienfue, Javeriano, myself, a lot of people, Javerianos as well. And I missed my point.
Other bands? Right.
Papa Chale was also in my school. He's also Javeriano. And I used to look up to him. I still look up to him. And this is his band, and it's very good. El Papo Vecino. Look into it.
Yeah,
we've got it bookmarked now.
Yeah.
We're going to take a listen to that.
For sure.
All right. So you also mentioned it's kind of obvious if you tattoo someone's signature on your arm, that's a pretty influential person. But we wanted to ask you about some of your favorite authors.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm going to start with you. It's easy for you guys because you're actors and you obviously love films, and maybe you've got into this guy's books. Maybe you haven't. But that would be my thing. Okay, so late 90s was a very great year for the 99 for movies. And you had Fight Club and you had American Psycho, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Fight Club was written by Chuck Palahniuk, a guy from the northern U.S. That was his second book. He's one of my favorite writers. The American Psycho was based on a novel by Bret Easton Ellis, who's a generation behind Chuck Palahniuk. He also wrote Less Than Zero in the 80s, this drama where Robert Downey Jr. plays a junkie and dies in the 80s. I don't know if you remember it or saw it. He wrote that as well. Rules of Attraction, he wrote it as well. So Bret Easton Ellis and Chuck Palahniuk are my main influences as a writer. I have this Tolkien thing because I love his world and what he created. We also share some initials. His signature has his journal Raul, so I'm Raul. Tolkien, I have this other nickname which is Toño. We have T. So I did that, but yeah, these other writers really, if you read them and you read me, you would see like, okay, he's really got it. In a sense that both of them, they have, first of all, they have really good prose. They're very elegant, or it can be very funny, and they have a thing with dialogue, which is a very tricky thing that worked on a lot, and a lot of writers, because it's difficult to. Most writers say, "Buenos días, ¿cómo estás, hijo?"
Yeah.
Instead of, "Hey, pelao, levántate." It's harder to write that second one, but that's how you get the flow or the tone of the people and the place. So
Right.
I've really worked on that, and these two writers do that very elegantly. And also the idea of writing, like for me as a journalist, I like to tell the truth. I can have fantasies and stuff, but I rather say what's around me, and also say things that are hard to people to get. If you want to get fancy pants, I'm a Sagittarius, so it's hard for me to lie, and I like to tell the truth, and I usually pay the price for it. So, yeah, to give you an example, like American Psycho and me. On my first book, Libertad Editorial, I had 4 short stories. The last one is called El Juguete Favorito, and it's about an overweight yeyecito who wakes up one day, has nothing to do, doesn't want to go to college, jerks off, takes off on his SUV, goes to Albrook Mall, and shoots a kid with a silencer from the second place.
Oh, wow.
And the little girl dies on her mother's arms. And then he goes off, and he puts an Andrea Bocelli CD, and he drives into the distance eating a Big Mac. So
that's hardcore.
That's American Psycho as well. Chuck Palahniuk, this guy is very crude. He's worked a lot of. He has, for example, he has a book called Pygmy, like Pygmy, Pigmy. Okay, Pygmy.
Yeah,
and Chuck Palahniuk.
Yeah.
Okay. Chuck Palahniuk's Pygmy book is about a secret operative from an sort of Asian dictatorship country, maybe North Korea, maybe China, who goes to the U.S. as an exchange student with a bunch of other Asians, and they want to create Project Havoc, which is to destroy America, right? But these Oriental characters, their dialogues are written in me like ta 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 in that Chinese short way of speaking, and right. With like bad broken American English. It's called English. That's the English. Funny way of English. English. Yeah. So when I saw this guy doing that, which is very funny, very tough, another way, and this for you actors, you should. Are you Star Wars fans?
Yes.
Have you read the Shakespeare's?
I love Star Wars.
I know that your friend Lisa Palm has read this book, the Shakespeare version of Star Wars.
No, I have not read it yet.
I gotta check that out.
This writer rewrote all of the Star Wars films, the six ones, the 6 first ones, in Shakespearean the what is it the iambic pentameter.
Yeah.
And very it's cool. Funny, man, and it's funny, and it's the same story, and like to do that with language, that's very hard. So to answer all your questions, yeah, I try to I'm very influenced by these two writers. And what I get from them is to tell the truth, to be funny, and to make it sound real.
I can hear that because like I mentioned earlier, I'm just starting Nuevo Paraíso, and I like the flow of it. Also, I was mentioning to Joe that you're able to capture kind of like el feeling panameño, and in a positive way, and it's got the best word that I can think of now is flow. It's got a nice smoothness. Like I don't mean this as what was the guy who did like Get Shorty? You make your protagonist look cool. You know what I mean? Like smooth.
Elmore Leonard.
Yeah, Elmore Leonard. Again, I'm just starting but I do.
I just read a book by him. I read not the Jackie Brown Rum Punch, which is the one that the movie Jackie Brown, Quentin Tarantino, Jackie Brown was based on. I just read it. It's fantastic, and they all speak in broken, like semi-educated American English from the South.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, fuck. Fantastic. It's fantastic. And there's this middle line where, like, well, it's very hard.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You know, there's something I want to focus on the second half of the hour, but if we have so much things to talk about, can we transition into your work in the museums and in history?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So, you know, as being a journalist and being an author, I'm sure that thirst for knowledge. But where did you find yourself moving towards working in museums and historical journalism and stuff like that?
Okay, I want to clear the line, clear the air to not offend anyone and just to be fair. I'm not a historian, but I've written articles about history, and I've included historical themes in my books. I haven't worked properly for any museums, just once, but I've worked as a curator for different galleries, and I've exhibited, curated an exhibition for the Museo de Arte Contemporáneo, for the MAC Panama.
Right.
So that's the way that I've worked with museums. Well,
tell us about your exposition. That was interesting.
If we can explain first, because a lot of people might not know, what does a curator do?
What's the curator? Oh, man, that's one of the questions that I can ask the most. It's easy. The curator is an administrator. It's like the producer in a play.
Okay.
He deals, a curator deals with the artist and whatever they want to put out, and with the exhibition space and whatever standards and style of art they want to do.
Okay.
The curator helps the artist produce their work by knowing the creative process, assessing them either to finish what they started or to make certain decisions to have a body of work that is good enough for the exhibition space. And the exhibition space needs of you to produce the work for them, because they just have the space. They don't have, if they had an in-house curator, then you wouldn't be doing the thing.
Right.
And you have to produce the work with the artist for the space. So the curator is basically the main producer, the executive producer of an art show. Okay. And I got into that. Most curators would say that this is, yes, you can study this in college. I didn't. And some of the people who do work in this stuff go in through the back door. Meaning, on my part, as a journalist, I used to work. I have friends who are artists, and when you're an artist, you do your work. But when you have an exhibition, shit, you have to do that texto de sala or the summary. And how do I work? How do I write it? I work with a few friends. I did the work. I interviewed them. They knew. They told me what the thing was about. Did the write-up, and that's how I got into it. And then a friend of mine who was a skater and an artist got the Museum de Arte Contemporáneo to do an art show of artists who are skaters and skate art. And he said, "Hey, dude, I got this exhibition. I need a curator." So I was like, shit, estoy entrando por la puerta grande, man. My first gig in el Museo de Arte Contemporáneo. What else? And,
amazing.
I saw it. You did a good job, man.
Amazing.
Yeah, we put a rampa, a skatable sculpture at the MAC. We skated at the MAC. It was amazing. So after that, things started to come out, and it was usually because there are like half a dozen really good and experienced curators here in Panama. And not that they're overworked, but they all have their contacts and stuff. And I started getting like all the stuff that they were not taking in.
Right.
And in a year, I did like 3 different exhibitions. One of photography with emerging photographers. One with ceramic artists that were all women, which was called Femenino Plural. Arte Cerámico. I love that. And I did another one with ceramic tiles that was showed in the US that I had to get artists to do little ceramic pieces. So yeah, I got into that through the back door, and it's just an administrative work, Joe. And for me, I think it's easy. I think I try to make it easy because I've had more experience in not to blow things out of proportion and be practical. So it's common sense and communication, basically.
Do you
That's
consider your book about Fermin Chan historical though? That for me that qualifies you as a historian.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm not a historian because I didn't study history and not a specialist. I'm not specialized as a journalist in history.
Okay.
There are a few journalist friends who are specialized in writing history. But through that work, yes, God damn it, that there's a lot of history there.
For sure.
And as a leeway into other things, into this other work that I did with a museum, yes, I'm not a history buff, but I'm really interested in history. Like you guys, I'm a bicultural Panamanian. I'm a Panamanian in my identity, in my life, but I also have a heritage from Mexico, from my mom, and I was born there. I had a lot of family there, and there's a lot of history in Mexico. Everything's been written. There's been lots of movies done. There's it's not that there's a lot of history. It's that there's a lot of work that's been done on that history.
Right.
And when I see the history in Panama, I get an anxiety attack of how much stuff there is to tell that hasn't been told.
Yeah.
And this project, this Fermin Chan project, Fermin Chan was a Chinese immigrant who started a textile business here in Panama. He was the first one to bring Lee jeans into Panama. He brought jeans to Panama, actually. And his 75-year run with his company is still working. There's a lot of history around his story. So that was my first biography. Since then, I've worked in 2 other biography type projects. I worked on a screenplay for a documentary about Alberto Mota, who's also from Fermin Chan's generation, but Jewish, and also made a lot of companies. He was involved in Banco General.
He was friends with my grandmother in Colón.
Word.
Dude, the guild started in the garage of his house in Colón.
Nice.
The house is still there. It's like a museum. It's still owned by the family. It's in a corner I forgot the name of the street, Calle del Frente. One of his sons, someone from the family told me that in 47, 48, they started doing plays at the bottom of his, like the canal houses. They have this place at the bottom. So I work with that, and with Fermin Chan, I got to learn about his history and his company's history and Chinese Panamanian history. With Alberto Mota, Jewish American history and corporate history, because he was a founder of the Colón Free Zone. He did lots of firsts. Then I did another.
I was also interested in something you mentioned in your blog regarding a book that you read from Mexico, where it had all the bullet points of Mexican history and detailed them and sometimes discredited them, which I think would be a pretty interesting thing to do here in Panama.
For sure. Well,
especially about the Canal Zone.
No, Henry, before discrediting anything, what I would say is for you or to bring more original content to the forefront and let the content contradict or say
speak for itself.
Otherwise, speak for itself.
Or have more voices.
Yeah, and I think
what I'm getting at is that there's a lot of history in our country, history in individuals, history surrounding individuals, history in communities, and for me, I have this anxiety to tell it, and that's what has linked me to the Canal Zone. I was working on a documentary called El Último Soldado with a professor friend of mine who directed it, Luis Romero. He hired me, and we had to. It's a documentary about the relationship between Panama and the U.S., and it talks about a lot of different things. But we had to interview Zonians, and this was my first contact with Zonians at the Canal Zone as a thing. We had to interview Alex, and the interview was at the Elks Lodge,
Elks Club.
Yeah.
and they were playing a show to a reunion, some high school from Cologne from 1970 something. So I got in, not knowing who these people were and not knowing what this place was. I get into this magical place, and these people are doing this magical thing. And I actually, the first line in my book Purgatorio Tropical, the first line of a story that's there, it's that same scene that I saw,
Right.
which is Shorty and Slim playing at the Elks Club and all these Zonians dancing. And I said, Jesus, man, this is Panama as well. And why don't this is well? It got to me, and over the last couple of years, I've done different things about the Canal Zone. I did this article on Shorty and Slim where I befriended them and through that interview actually, and I was like, this music, man, why have people not written about them? And with my blog, which is basically my own magazine, now that there aren't any magazines to hire me to do anything, I have my own magazine in my blog, and I did that article there.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's this whole lot of stuff that it's unedited or unpublished or untold. But yeah, you wanted to ask me something.
Sorry, I just got wrapped up in the story you were telling, and I
Yeah,
totally
great.
forgot, man. I was like, this is amazing. I want to listen and capture it all.
Well, I think the first time that because I think we've met each other over the years in la calle, so to speak, but the first time we really
Straight.
interacted with each other was when you interviewed me at the MAC.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you. You're very kind to me because it's difficult for the Zonians to come out and speak because we felt like nobody wants to hear it, over the so many years and during the transition and whatnot. So first of all, thank you very much for a very balanced and fair interview. I think about that a lot. It didn't go the way that I wanted it to in my own head, but nonetheless, we were speaking, which I think is the most important thing, is to just start talking about it more and not shutting it off and polarizing different viewpoints.
Yeah, sure. And the thing about I don't know if I should stop and reconnect myself because the internet at my house just got back on. Oh no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Do you want to make a drink,
No.
or are you cool before we start the second hour?
I'm cool.
All right.
I'm cool. I'm finishing my water, my bottle, my water bottle. It's not a water bottle. Wine bottle.
Nice.
Anyways, so yeah, the Canal Zone thing got to me, and last year, while I was scheduled to start working on my novel, I had the best fucking professional calling ever. A friend of mine who's also a writer said, the Panama, el Museo del Canal Interoceánico, which is the Panama Canal Museum and Casco Viejo, they're renewing they're refreshing or renewing their exhibitions, and they need writers to work on the historical facts that they're going to use on the legends and writings that are going to put with each piece and exhibitions. Are you up for it? I said, fuck yes. And we presented a proposal. We were going to do it, the two of us together. And we signed the contract in March. And when we were supposed to start working, the pandemic hit and the museum was closed. And we had to start to keep working without seeing the objects and with just using books and which were a lot, and information that we got online. And we got, I think, last year I read around 20 books or publications related to the Panama Canal, between novels, historical documents, PDFs, web pages, studies, you name it. Dividing with my colleague the certain topics that we were supposed to write on, and we did that. But the thing is, El Museo del Canal right about then didn't have a director. Their longtime director had just retired, and they were without a director, and they wanted to get this renovation going. And when we were in the middle of it, they hired another historian who said, okay, this plan that you were working on is great, but I've sort of twitched it, and this is the thing that we're going to work on. And what he did, he brought it to the 21st century, meaning that he wanted to highlight women's role, the role of minorities, by that meaning non-white people, and more about life in the Canal Zone. And even though it was more work and it sort of like shifted what we were doing, we were like, fuck yeah, let's do it. We agree on his vision. We had to do it anyways, but we agreed on that. And right about when we were starting to work on that, they got a new director, which is the one that is now, which is a young Panamanian historian, was working in England. And when we were supposed to deliver our first batch of topics, they said, okay, thank you very much. We're going to start working with somebody else or doing it with somebody else. And I was like, we were disappointed and it was sad. But the thing is that, and it wasn't that we did anything wrong, it's that maybe they wanted some new guys or the director wanted someone
Start
different.
from scratch.
Yeah.
Because we were like, you can tell us if you want this to be said differently or whatever. No, we're writers. That's what we do. You just give us the line.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen, so that was sad. But on the upside, all this fucking knowledge is mine. All that I read is mine, and I can do whatever I want with it. I can write a book which is 101 facts you didn't know about the Canal Zone and were afraid to ask.
Is there any one fact that you'd like to share with us now that kind of stands out in your brain?
Yeah, just one thing.
There are lots. There are lots. But I mentioned this to you last time we met. I don't know if you remember. Goethals, who was the administrator who took over and finished the project for the Americans, who was a general. He had a private investigator that was his second guy, his second
right-hand man.
Second in command. No, right-hand man.
No, his second in command. Yeah, it was his right-hand man. And this guy, Goethals, he had on Sundays he had an open door policy. That on Sundays, if you had any grievances, regardless if you were gold or silver, old or new, or young, whatever, you can come up to him, to his office, and say, "Oh, Lord Goethals, I haven't been paid properly. What can you do?" And he would say, "Oh, I will look into it." And they will wink into this guy, and he will follow up on the thing. And that I got from Julie Green's book, Canal Builders. But there are lots of other stuff. There's a lot of macabre stuff as well about people dying in explosions and lots of fucking Gorgas. Gorgas gets here, right, in 1984, and this is drunken history.
1984.
But the book that
we're doing it. We're doing it.
Raul, the book that I showed you. It tells a story of when he got here in 1903 with his friend, and they got wasted, and his friend got arrested.
Yeah,
I love it.
What I was going to say is that he got here with his wife. He was one of the first people to come from the U.S. He came here with his wife and a couple of other nurses, and he had a house in Hospital Gorgas, which is the Ancon hospital, and which was built by the French, right? And the French built it around the construction of their own project in the 1880s. And when they were building it and when they were using it, around easily 15,000 people died there, right? Patients who come there, a lot of people died elsewhere, but like thousands of people died in that hospital in the 1880s, right?
Right.
So this new guys coming from the US, and it's nighttime, and they're sleeping in this hospital where thousands of people have died in the last 20 years. And the Gorgas's wife said, "Oh, if you listen to the night is eerie because of the things that have died here or whatever."
Yeah.
That's an eerie thought for me, man, and that little detail gave me a lot of, I don't know,
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Chills.
But yeah, anyways, there are lot of details that, and for example, I posted a thing on Facebook about the Gallegos that work on the Panama Canal, right? And the funny fact is that the Gallegos, even though they were Spaniards, they weren't considered white. Like Italians were considered white, and Greeks were considered white. They were considered less than white, or the different, and they were on the silver roll. And there was this article that Spanish people from Panama want to make some monument to the people from Galicia, mostly, that worked in the Panama Canal. And I don't know who said it or something, but there was this thing about who was in the gold roll and who wasn't in the silver roll. And the thing is that HB gave me a detail that I didn't know, that his grandfather, who was Swedish, was on the silver roll, even though he was white, right, and European or Aryan even, right?
Yeah.
And on the other side, they were blacks and they were Panamanians on the gold roll as well, and Asians as well.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to get that on this particular fact is that even in that Julie Green book, it's not there.
Right.
So there are still, even though the Canal Zone, there's books about it and there's things that have been said, there's still a lot that hasn't been said, and it's still underreported.
Absolutely.
Right.
I agree with you. I mentioned this also when we had that quick drunken history at my house. I always feel like the Zonians are misrepresented, but my wife says that we're not presented at all.
Yes.
One of those
I would agree with her.
Yeah. One of the thoughts that I had was your write-up of Erased, the book about the town sites.
Yes.
That was common knowledge in the Canal Zone. We knew about Emperador and Baso Obispo and all that stuff. So,
well, we on the other side weren't shown that at all.
That's kind of like, from the Zonian perspective, everything seems to be written like there's a big racist controversy, conspiracy, but there was racism, there was segregation. But I want to ask you and Jose, like, what image do you have of the Canal Zone? Because the way that I read it and other Zonians perceive it, it seems like the only point of interest seems to be the gold and silver roll, when there's 100 years of history.
No, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That would be saying, like, let me do a comparison that I don't know. That's just the tip of the iceberg, and to go deeper would mean a bigger commitment to be open to that information, and that's what hasn't happened yet, because most of history on the Canal Zone and Panamanians, why isn't the Canal Zone an historical heritage site yet? Because most Panamanians haven't and won't see it as such, because it hasn't been presented as such. You asked me my experience. I was born in 1978, and right in 1978, that's when shit happened. That's when shit started to change for you guys.
Yeah.
It's when the treaties started to work. Some bases started to be reverted, and people, through Zonians from then on, are different and think differently from Zonians from before. Sure. And even though there are different points of view within the community. But what I would like to get at is that for us, like, for example, the thing you just said, for you in the Canal Zone, you had all these facts about the Canal Zone from within, because, I don't know, where you learned it or how that information was supplied to you. But for most Panamanians on the outside, that wasn't considered history, it wasn't research at all, and most historians would do not accept that the Canal Zone is now part of us. It's part of a culture. It's like a new group of vacunas or emberas. They
I
have
know what
their
you're
own
saying. It's
territory,
like,
their own culture, their own language,
Their own
but
history.
it happened in Panama.
their own
It happened in
places that
Panama.
they build.
Yeah.
But because that all happened without the interaction of most Panamanians, it's going to take a couple of generations to people to get over the racist shit or the racist part of it.
In
And
1973,
see all the difference.
In 1973, 70% of the laborers of the Canals Commission were Panamanian.
Panamanian.
That's a majority.
But those were a little minority for the rest of Panamanians.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And the Panamanians who had that experience were very few Panamanians had that experience.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? We had a little dropout in connectivity.
Come back, Raul. Come back.
Come back to us. Stay away from
hello,
the line.
Hello.
That's a little broken up still. Let's give it a minute. Let's give it a minute to stabilize.
1, 2, 3. Sí.
Come back to us, Raul. We miss you. We love you.
Sí.
We're getting into the juicy part. Ahora sí.
Hello.
Yes,
hello?
You're here.
All right, we're on. Yeah.
Okay, I need to go get my charger. Let me come back, please.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
No worries.
So for those of you who are just tuning in, this is Rapping with Rap Scams. We have Raul Altamar, and we spoke the first hour about his work as a writer, a copywriter, journalist. And the second hour,
we've just started our roundtable conversation about the Canal Zone, life in the Canal Zone, perspectives from life in the Canal Zone, how Panamanians would see it, how Raul saw it, how HB saw it. I still haven't weighed in. I got I got knowledge, or thoughts at least. I don't know if it's knowledge, but they're thoughts. They're words that are going to come out of my mouth. But it's very interesting to understand why people feel the way they feel.
Gonzalo says maybe Panamanians don't discuss Zonians for similar reasons to Denzel not kissing white girls on screen.
Man, we're gonna have to ask Denzel when we have him on the show.
Let's dig into that, because does that mean if Panamanians discuss the zone, then their friends are going to yell at them?
Maybe.
Be mad at them?
I don't know. They get mad. They get irate. They get vexed.
I like this. Let's do a little disclaimer. We're not historians. We're not professionals. This is all to try and talk about it. The most important thing is
keep the
to
conversation going. Keep the dialogue going. There's a lot of things we got to learn.
Yeah, and
we're cool.
All right, welcome back, sir.
Welcome back.
We're cool.
Gonzalo wrote in. He said, maybe Panamanians don't discuss Zonians for similar reasons to Denzel not kissing white girls on screen. Ha.
No. It's a different thing. What it's going to take is for people to be more open and to let things that happen in the past with different mindsets lay to rest, and focus on different things like short and slim music, like the architecture in the Canal Zone.
Yes.
Especially the architecture in the Canal Zone.
Yeah.
The Ciudad del Saber is the only entity in this country that has taken that heritage seriously and tried to maintain it, restore it, write about it.
Yes.
They've published different books about that I've used last year about Canal Zone architecture, which are really, really fantastic. Just that, Canal Zone, bases and houses and buildings in a Canal Zone, they all should have a fucking little gold plaque that say this is heritage, like in other countries.
Yeah.
But in a country where still other non-Canal Zone things like Portobello is still underdeveloped, under-curated, nourished, under everything.
Camino de Cruces.
Yeah. I mean,
with the Canal Zone.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
With the Canal Zone, you have that on top of the animosity and the history between the two countries and the colonialistic shit that we need to get over. because basically that's what it is, Henry. It's colonialistic stuff that happened 100 years ago, and right now we're still going through, like in the U.S., they're still going through that and dealing with slavery. Even in England, there are countries asking for restitution.
Yeah, good point.
I'm not going to go into any of that.
We couldn't solve that in 1 hour.
We can't solve it. No.
Yeah. But what I mean to say is that the Canal Zone is, for me and for a lot of Panamanians, is a heritage of Panama. It's part of the culture, and even though the most of the country doesn't understand it. Joe, you said you're from Chiriquí, or you lived in Chiriquí?
Yeah, no, well, it's very funny. I have a very funny sort of upbringing. So I grew up in Panama City, but I lived for a bit when I was very young, even though it was a couple of months only. I lived in Scotland. Then I moved to the U.S.
Oh, fantastic.
I moved to the U.S. where I lived for 10 years. Then in Miami, and I lived for 3 months in Arizona. Then I came back to Panama and automatically moved to David Chiriquí, where I spent 2.5 years. Then I lived in Panama City. Then I lived in Scotland once again for a bit. And then I'm back in Panama City. So for me, it was very interesting because, of course...
That explains your accent.
Yes, exactly.
Now I get it.
So a lot of people, when they meet me, and especially because HB is my friend, he's my brother, people are like, oh, look at this Zonian. And I'm like, I'm not a Zonian. I'm not a Zonian, you know.
Mira este gringo.
Mira este gringo.
I was like, no, I'm the gringo.
No, actually, now that you say it, your accent is more of a Miami kind of.
I got a Miami vibe. Once somebody told me my accent was so New York, and I was like, yeah, so New York.
That's when you're acting funny. That's when you're acting funny.
That's right. But like I was growing up in the States, right? And I remember my dad, huge history buff, very much into history and everything. So we would always go to like antique shops or old bookshops, and he would always be looking for old books on the Panama Canal. And I'm talking like old school books published in like, you know, the 40s and everything, like old books. So every time I go to book fairs, you know, we'd have school trips to book fairs. I'd be looking for books on the Panama Canal because I wanted to learn. This was my history, you know, my culture, my heritage. And every time I'd read it, it would be like, the Panama Canal, so amazing. The Americans came and built the Panama Canal. So it's a wonder for the world and everything. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Panama Canal, oh my God. But then when I came back to Panama, of course, living in Chiriquí, our history teacher, we never really touched upon what happened in the Panama Canal. It was always like, los gringos vinieron, hicieron esto. But it was always said with a very sort of kind of like, you know, they did this in here. This is their own separate area where they did what they had to do. And Panama was separate to it, you know? So it was kind of like, what happened in there? We don't know. It's a mystery. They built a canal, and the canal was there. So then that's kind of like the way, and it was always like los gringos. And then obviously los gringos sacaron a Noriega, all that stuff. And then in my mind, I was kind of thinking like, okay, los gringos sacaron a Noriega. That's good because nobody's wondering anymore.
I want to mention an anecdote that made me put things into perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the documentary director Ken Burns.
Yes.
Ken Burns did a lot of documentaries for PBS.
The Ken Burns fade, man.
Ken Burns fade.
Oh, that's a joke, man. I get it. So Ken Burns has done documentaries on a lot of U.S. history, from country music and baseball to New York and the Prohibition, right?
Yeah.
So right now, if I had to recommend something to you guys to watch, it would be the 9-part documentary series, which is on YouTube, on New York, which is Ken Burns' 9-hour documentary about New York.
Oh.
It's fucking amazing. It's one of the best things I've seen. I've seen it last year. I saw it twice. And the thing is that you get from that documentary and from New York, which I compare a lot to Panama because it's they're cities based on immigrants that have different communities, and they have their locals and they have their other groups, but they're also local. But anyways, and the thing is that New York, like in the 1700s, people walked through New York and saw the streets and said, this is nothing like the New York of old, that when the first Dutchman found it. 100 years later, same thing. all these bridges being and buildings being built. Where's the old New York
Oh,
with
no
the
way.
apple orchard? And that happened,
Yeah,
and
that's
here,
history, yeah.
and
Yeah.
that happened all the way through the '60s and now, and here in Panama, like Bellavista, oh, they're taking down all the buildings in
Yeah.
Bellavista. Yes, yes, or the Canal Zone. We don't know much about that. Well, other countries also not they don't take that much interest in history,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
there's so many of it
Yeah.
that it's very hard to keep tabs on everything.
Yes.
Well, that's true.
And
Very true.
the best way to honor that is to have your own initiatives and your own things, because if you wait for the government to do it for you, or you wait for some other big
Yeah.
entity
The
to do it,
cavalry's not
it's
going to
not
come
going to
help
happen.
you. They're not going to
Exactly.
show up.
One clear example, and I hope to follow through on this as a curator. Alex from Shorty and Slim has a sort of a museum in his house. He has collected a whole bunch of stuff from the Canal Zone throughout the years. Some gigantic, some really small, some really old, some not so much. But every piece is like a museum. And when you're in the U.S. and you're driving along the highway, you find like the Button Museum in fucking
Yeah.
somewhere
Like the Ball
Michigan.
of Yarn
or you find-
Museum.
Yeah. In Missouri, you're like, what?
Right. And before Alex donates, before his death, his collection to the Panama Canal Museum, who has, as an institution, has stuff that can't show because they haven't got the space for it. Alex, do you have a museum in your home? He already had a name for it, the Zeum. Zeum.
Zeum.
And
Museums.
and
Zeum.
basically, what I'm gonna have, what I want to help him with
Yeah.
is to do a catalog of the pieces. This is what you found it where, is this much old, and this is the story for it. To develop like the narrative for the museum to have on his own.
Sure.
And he could have, you could have, you're while you're doing your tour of the Miraflores, you can pass by Alex's house in Albrook, see the fucking magnificent architecture in Albrook, and see all this history of this. That's, for me, is just as valuable as what the Ciudad del Saber or the Museo del Canal is doing.
Well, a lot of
And
Zonians are collectors, you know.
Collecting.
Yeah.
And there's the El Museo the Panama Canal Museum in Florida. They have actually they put out, I saw it, but I haven't. They have a Panama Canal cookbook. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
Oh.
Fantastic, man. I saw it once. It has like over 100 recipes for people from all over. It's a fantastic piece of
we've spoken
writing.
about some Canal
Johnny
Zone.
Mazzetti.
Yeah, Johnny Mazzetti. We've spoken about.
If you go back through all the old canal reviews, which we spoke about briefly, you'll see where in the 50s everyone spelled ceviche with an S, ceviche with a B, like Sebiche.
But that's the Peruvian spelling, actually.
Yeah,
it's
so
okay in Peru.
That's
But
how
it's
they used to spell it in the 50s in the Canal Zone. I was like, what? That's weird. I wanted to share an anecdote. Is since the year 2000, since the turnover, there's been a lot of college students that have interviewed me, and they wanted to do a documentary about Zonians because, in their words, they never knew what the zone was, and they felt like their teachers, they're not what they have been taught. They don't feel like is the truth.
Right.
So I've probably been interviewed probably 5 or 6 times, and it usually ends in nothing because they felt like no one wants to hear that story. I just wanted to share that anecdote because there is a thirst for that knowledge, but
for sure.
On this Alberto Mota project, I work with this girl who studied film in New York, and her thesis was a small documentary about her uncle, who was a Panamanian born in the Canal Zone, lived through the invasion, and then went to New York and became an artist. So it's this Zonian that lives in New York who's an artist, and you look at this guy, this another Jew artist from New York, a Jew, and meaning in a demeaning way. He looks like a guy from New York, essentially, right?
New Yorker.
New York.
A New Yorker. But he's a Panamanian and he's an artist, and he had a lot of story to tell. And she did this little piece for her thesis, but it's around the same thing that you were presented with. Sorry that they haven't followed through, but still the initiative is there. And
But I think there is a thirst for that knowledge out there.
yeah. And all these Zonians that collect stuff, what I would say to them is, dudes, what are you going to do with that? And it's one thing to have your own private collection, your own family heirlooms. I'm really into that. But there's this other stuff that belongs to everybody and that you can share.
I have another anecdote as well. Is when before they repatriated all the artifacts to the Canal Zone Museum in Florida, a lot of the people who formed that museum tried to work with the Interoceanic Museum, and
there was a link there. There was a link there.
There was, but they couldn't. They declined to donate their property because they felt that museum wasn't working on international museum.
The Panamanians thought the one in Florida wasn't up to par, or the other way around.
No, the Interoceanic Museum was more at that time was more nationalistic. Those are my own words.
The Panamanian one.
The Interoceanic one in Casco Viejo.
El Museo del Canal Interoceánico, yes.
They couldn't agree on how to present the stuff because the people who formed the museum in Florida felt that they weren't being objective, on the pieces. You know, they were.
Yeah, they were, and the work that we did with all the renovations was to assess that to have more. Right now there's an exhibition of Balboa High School, man, fantastic.
Yeah.
They have mugs. They have a whole lot of stuff just from Balboa High School. But they have a new thing about this. This is just side notes, but things that were before that show the influence and the style of life in the Canal Zone in the 40s and 50s. Pictures of musicals inspired on the Canal Zone. I didn't know anything about that.
Wow.
There's a whole lot of stuff right now in the museum, but I get where you're being at this maybe in the 2000 this HP this thing that you were mentioning happened around like the first years of the 2000s, right?
It was probably in 97 or 98.
But yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
And this is based on a situation that happened to me. So I had a situation at work that I was dealing with, right? And then this situation required me to have police assistance and dealing with someone who spoke English, okay? So then a police officer came to me to deal with the person that I was trying to deal with.
Okay.
And the person who I was trying to deal with, that I needed the police assistance with, only spoke in English, but I couldn't go and handle it because I'm not a police officer and I was not supposed to put myself in a dangerous situation. So the police officer came to me and I said to this person, I said, great, she's in there. Do you speak English? And she said, no, I don't speak English because the Americans were here and they were terrible. So I decided not to learn English. And I was like, man, that was a shock. That was a shock. And then I thought, how many people potentially thought this way, right? So I was thinking about that. And
a few.
Huh?
You're breaking up a little bit.
And
hello.
Yes. Yeah, we got you. I think.
Carry on.
Yeah. So then I thought about this. I was like, how many people think this way, that you would automatically stunt your own growth, your own potential to do more because of this belief that you were like, oh, I don't like you, so I'm not going to learn English. So I can understand there were people that didn't agree with it, right? And they were like, but maybe was it because of a lack of communication? Maybe if the Canal Zone would have had a better communication campaign or something to explain to people what was happening.
No, it wasn't about the communication. It was about that they were. It was a piece of the country that wasn't accessible to the rest of the country. It was good that the country couldn't take part of at all, and was in a way taken. And if even though Panamanians did work in the canal, even though that eventually throughout the years the racism got phased out. All the bad practices were worked through, and yes, Panamanians have great stories about the Canal Zone and working in the Canal Zone. Still, you have a redneck would be someone who's poorly educated. You have poorly educated people from rural parts of the country who don't have access to certain information and enough to have a proper sense of what happened. And even what she said, I haven't heard a comment that strong before. And I'm very sad that she think that way, to hinder her knowledge and her abilities in that way through this thing, but through this prejudice. But those prejudices come from ignorance, and ignorance comes from a lack of education, and lack of education comes from a lack of communication, and lack of communication comes from a lack of understanding. And there you go.
Yeah.
And in this young upstart nation that we have, upstart, even though we have 500 years of history and we abolished slavery before the U.S., we're still a young country. We're not as old as, say, Mexico or even, I don't know, countries in Europe. So we're developing our own identity.
True.
And the Zonian part of our identity is like, let me put it in this way. When I was working on a book, this book, En Vida Real, which is a story about Panamanians and stories about that study, we got a sense that through the study that Panama why is Panama a young nation? Let's guess China. China, it would be like a 100-year-old woman, being so old and so wise and so big and nurturing. Mexico would be like maybe a 30-year-old young guy who's still working. England would be like an 80-year-old very wise person. Panama right now would be like a adolescent, or not someone who's just getting into college, and just is understanding himself or herself. What is it about? What's it like? What it doesn't like, and still developing its identity, knowing that there's all these different things.
I accept that, but I also want to retort a little bit, because Panama has been in control of the canal for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And how come no one from Panama says, how come we don't live like the Zonians lived in the Canal Zone?
It's too little time, HP. It's too little time.
Why? We're not even. Speaking as a Panamanian, I'm very angry as a Panamanian. Why? Me as a Panamanian and my brethren and government never learned anything from the Canal Zone on how Panama can be a paradise, because Panama's pretty small, man.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that is a very excellent point of view, and it's a point of view based on someone who lived that other reality and who has a sense of what value it has. For us, we have to learn about that and understand it, how good it was, regardless of, it was no, to really what you're getting at, the organization of it, because you're getting to the nuts and bolts of it, how this could be run easily. What I would say is two things. It's a bit more complicated than that.
Sure, I'm overgeneralizing.
And secondly, there's still a lot of time, and time is going to heal all these wounds.
Yeah.
And I take example of take Thailand and England. Thailand, yeah, the two countries that have monarchies that are working monarchies, but a large part of the population doesn't want part of that. And you as maybe as a foreigner who watches that, you say, yeah, they should get rid of the monarchy because the freedoms, or why the people get paid more, whatever. For they to overcome that piece of history, which is so deep within them, it's going to take a long time. And for us as Panamanians to digest, to process, and to see the fruits of what the Canal Zone means and gave us, it's going to take, first of all, time.
Yeah.
And second of all, the effort of people like you and me to do our own stuff, to get the truth out, just because we're interested in it, and just because it doesn't hurt to do it, because whatever it is you put out, it's going to add to it. It's not going to subtract
Add
to
to
it,
the
because there isn't much that much of it. You take the like I told you, The Path Between the Seas, which I read for the first time last year for work. I saw that book, Farmacia Rocha, 20 years, man.
David McCullough, right?
I was
Amazing.
oh man,
Mhm.
it's too big. It's like I don't know
Yeah.
how to read it. I got this gig with the museum. I had to read it. I got a first edition, man. It came out in '77. I got a first edition
Wow.
gifted from a friend.
Nice gift.
I read it in
Can you gift it to
2
me?
weeks. No. And I read it in 2 weeks, right? And I was blown away.
How did he
man.
get? How did he do so much research? It's amazing.
He had like 20 monkeys working with him, man.
Yeah,
I've seen interviews. He has a staff of people. He didn't do it all on his own.
Sure.
But I read it, and then when we got working with this historian at the museum, he said, "Yeah, proper historians say that this guy is just a writer. He's not He's not a doctor in history, and a lot of the things he says are embellished or dramatized. Yes, everything he says is based on facts, and there are references.
We could say the same
But,
thing about Green too, then.
Yes, you can say the same thing about Green, and you mentioned that as well. But still, those two books complement each other quite well. And if you want to have a more objective view of the whole thing, those two books give you a really clear sense
Agreed.
of a lot of stuff. They still don't say the whole truth. There are still details that are unsaid or said within the viewpoints of each writer. But still, they complement each other, and there's a lot of things that and the other one has another tone. It's much more colder. It's not that engaging. So yeah, there are two different types of books on the same subject that complement each other for me very well, and from a historical point of view very well. But there's still lots of stuff, like there's the Canal Zone report. What's the newspaper that they had?
The review.
The
Canal
review.
Review?
Man, I have I don't know how heavy it is. This big PDF of like 70 years of Panama Canal reviews, man.
Yeah.
And if you want to get into how it was like from the inside, you can go right through that, man.
And if I can just kind of following up on that and thinking, because of course, when I moved back to Panama in 1998, which is when I moved to Chiriquí. This was just before the official handover. And so I remember when I would come to the city and everything, still driving through the Canal Zone, Bridge of the Americas and all that stuff, you could see a marked difference between that area and Panama. Even though it's still the handover it was like different. And you were like, oh wow, it's nice. There's big areas. It's green. There's not, signs everywhere and all that stuff. Like it seems very organized. So then once everything happened and everything, you could see kind of like the Panama influence, the Latin American influence kind of taking over these certain areas. And I can understand when HB says it's been 20 years since the handover. How come Panama hasn't learned from everything that went well in the Canal Zone? But when you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, 20 years is nothing. It's like dust in the wind. And consider that a lot of the people that are still prominent in Panamanian politics or whatever, these are people that were, they were still coming up in the game in a time when, there were a lot of negative vibes towards the Canal.
That's why I said, a few generations must pass for people with another consciousness and another openness to bring all this stuff to the forefront. Because if you take the Canal Zone and you take indigenous cultures in Panama, still underrepresented. I don't know just recently, because of my interest, I've learned about Kuna culture.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Their language is beautiful.
Yeah.
They also think they're the chosen ones, that God created them, and they don't mix, because if you mix with someone from another race, you'll be damaging your beautiful genes. And
I'm a chorizo. What are you talking about? I'm a chorizo.
But still, to take it out, the Kunas and their and everything regarding them is underrepresented.
I have a cool anecdote. As a Zonian, I wasn't invited to the opening of the expansion, but fortunately, someone,
you sound hurt.
un cuervo me dejó una invitación.
En la puerta, así, de la nada.
And I ended up sitting next to
Which one?
chieftain in Cocoli.
Which one do you?
In Cocoli.
Agua Clara.
Yeah. No, Cocoli. Yeah. And I was sitting next to an Embera cacique.
Oh, what did he say?
When they opened the canal, they brought out all the priests for the blessing. They brought a Christian priest, a Jewish priest, and a Muslim priest. And the guy turns to me because estuvimos conversando, ¿sabes? I mean,
for a long time, yeah.
And I was like, "Yo soy Zonian." Sí, And he's like, when they brought all these priests out, he's like, Cocoli es una palabra nuestra. ¿Dónde está la representación nuestra? Si van a hacer, if they're going to make a blessing.
There you go.
Where's the indigenous blessing? And we laughed about
that.
There
you go. That's a big faux pas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things. It's like,
yeah.
So many amazing things. The way we use electricity, the way we use concrete are because of the canal. And before the astronauts went to the moon, they came to Panama to learn jungle survivor training.
A friend of mine, just today, Amalia Aguilar, a writer who's writing history, just put an article about that. So I'm going to send it to you right now or later.
Okay. I'll send you. I made a little podcast about that. I'll send it so you can send it to him.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just supporting HP. I'm supporting him.
Yeah. My head's gonna explode.
There's videos of that online, by the way.
Very cool.
Them eating the snake.
Yeah.
Have you seen them?
I haven't seen that one. I saw the one with where they made the little tent, and they're under the tent and they're completely exhausted.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I also this year I read how's it called? Emperors in the Jungle.
What's that? Haven't heard of that one.
About all the nuclear and arms testing that went on here.
Look for that.
Horrible.
One.
And a guy died in Cocoli or got injured in Cocoli last month with a live how do you call them?
Ordnance. Unexploded ordnance. A lot of people in the Canal Zone and a lot of my friends have had brain tumors.
At home.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyways, there's a lot of that there. And what I'm saying, we could go on about this all day long.
Sure.
Yeah, for me as a writer, this is important. My next project is going to be a novel. I want to incorporate that in a way, the Canal Zone history. I'm fascinated by the history of Colón itself, and specifically Black heritage in Panama. I'm really, really keen on that. I've worked on Jewish culture. I work in Chinese culture, but I'm really getting to the Canal Zone culture and the Afro culture, maybe in my next book. Yeah, definitely.
And we did a show on Colón. Check it out, man.
Yeah, we did do a show on Colón.
Yeah. The architecture in Colón. For me, Colón, in my poetic sense, is Panama's broken heart. Colón is Panama's broken heart.
I hear you, man.
It could be the capital of the city, the most beautiful city of the country, the most diverse city with a lot of heritage, a lot of history, and it's totally underappreciated, totally vilified.
I hear you.
And because yes, there is crime. Yes, there is a lot of drug dealing or everything that's here in the city.
It's also the major port for Carnival Cruise Lines.
Yeah.
There's an economic benefit.
No,
we haven't taken advantage.
Anyways.
Yeah. Raul, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we're getting there.
No, we're running out of time. And we have so much to talk about. But first, I wanted, if you could just let the listeners know, man, because you have books that you have published, How can they get a hold of these books? Because I know there's some books you can get physical copies, and there's other books that you can only get digital copies. So let us know, how do we do this, my friend?
Okay, 3 of my books are on Amazon Kindle. You can go to Amazon and get my novel, Nuevo Paraíso. You can get Purgatorio Tropical, where I have a story on the Canal Zone called Zonificado. And you can get my first book, En Libertad Editorial, those on Amazon Kindle for $9.99.
Okay.
And my latest novel, you can get it from me directly. You can contact me at Altamar Escribe on Instagram, at Altamar Escribe on Instagram, or altamarescribe.com. And I can deliver it to you, and you can yappy me or give me cash.
Excellent. And that's Nuevo Paraíso. And I think hearing you guys talk about it, because I was keen, my next purchase was going to be Purgatorio Tropical, because it sounds really incredible just having read.
Get that one. But it starts with tits. It starts with tits.
Excellent. Yes. Everybody knows now.
That should be enough. Yeah, but it starts with tits.
But I'm a huge fan of physical books, my friend. So I think I'll be reaching out to you this week about Nuevo Paraíso. That's a promise I'm making you right now, because hearing you guys talk about it, now I need to read it.
Sure.
4:55. Raul, you have the red carpet. Is there anything you want to say to the fam scallions? Any ideas or subjects you want to bring up before we close out? The stage is yours.
Since most of your audience is friends of yours from the Canal Zone, what I would like to say to them is that, guys, you have a very rich history. You're Panamanians as well. You have an American history as well, from different parts of wherever your American family comes from. That's part of Panamanian culture. The fact that I'm doing this interview in Spanglish is my influence of the American culture on me as a Panamanian, and I accept that. But there's a few of us, and it's growing. And what I would like for you to know is that I find your history interesting, and that you should work on whatever projects you can work on to work on that history. There are lots of web pages. I know HB has worked on different things as well, but regardless, poetry, stories, whatever, put it out, man, because it's going to be your legacy for your community, which is also going to help you the rest of the country understand it better. So get into that, and if you ever need help, I'm available as well.
Well said. I think at the top of the show you mentioned a certain anxiety about history. I can tell you that I share that, and I know a lot of Zonians share that too, and that's why it's hard for me to hear you say that it's going to take time, because a lot of the best, uno de los mejores portadores de la historia son Zonians, de la historia panameña, and they're fading, and we're going to...
You're like the last Cherokees, man, the last Mohicans.
Yes.
Holding on to your precious things.
Yeah. And
I get it.
When you see the videos, I've seen some of the videos HB has shown me, and I love watching videos, of what Panama was like in Zonian times on YouTube and everything. And Zonians are Panamanians. It's a different sort of history and culture, but it's still there, intertwined with Panamanian history and culture. So it's one of those things where it sucks, because 20 years is nothing.
It's gonna take a little time.
Yes.
A little time to think things over. That's the
yes.
Wrap us up, Joe. Use your closing thoughts. Wrap us up, Joe.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. What a great show, man. I think it's amazing when we have, guests like Raul on here, guests that inspire you, guests that want to make you do more research, learn more things, just kind of try and become a bit more knowledgeable, learn more things. Here at Rapscallions, we like to laugh and learn. We like to talk about history, but we like to laugh too. We're not historians, but we are interested in history. We are interested in the history of Panama, in the history that made us who we are today. And I think the key to growing, to being better individuals, better human beings, is to keep learning, and opening your mind up to everything that's happened around you. So
preach on, brother.
Keep doing that.
Amen.
And love each other, no doubt.
Man, I love it. This guy always closes the show with inspiring things. Me and the Zonian, I want to say to any Panamanians that are listening, is that we all feel like Panamanians. We all have Panamanian flags all over our house. We don't feel like we're Americans. We don't feel like we're Panamanians. But one thing is for sure is that we love Panama. I love Panama, and I love having guests like Raul on who, reach out and grab different parts of the culture and bring it together.
Sure.
Has music, has skating culture, has historical culture. Thank you, Raul, for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. It's been
Hopefully,
great.
half of the rundown, we didn't even touch that. So maybe we can get you back on another time to chew the fat.
Sure.
Remember,
Hey,
yeah,
Evan Rodaniche, you had him on the show?
not yet.
Evan is a great link because everybody in Panama loves Cage 9.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I played bass
Evan,
with them
really?
in 7th grade.
Wow. Wow.
That was like
Well.
50 years ago.
I only know one song, Sweet Child of Mine.
I recorded it at Evan's house at Master Blaster in '98. I recorded a song there. Anyway, Evan is a great link because he's a great guy, and yeah.
Yeah.
Guys,
have him on.
if I could just give a couple shout outs, because we've had some comments in the
Let's
grams.
get the shout outs.
Randy Webb, he went like this. So we're doing like this to Randy Webb, no doubt. Our friend Mike Bolton tuning in, Silent Hunter PTY. He said, Colon Boy Ras.
Colombo Rice. This guy takes pictures with sharks, man.
That's right, man. And Juliana Marcus Perea sends us a heart.
Corazon.
So
Thank you.
back at you, Juliana. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, everyone. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. It's 5:00. I think we could probably go for another 2 hours. So we're going to have you back. Keep all those thoughts, write them down.
Sure.
And make sure that you check us out, PanamaRP.com. You can always find our live feed there every Sunday. You can find our links to Spotify, to Apple Podcasts, to our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Everything you need to know is going to be there. We've been updating like crazy, opening up the season number 2. Hey, thank you for being guest number 1 on season number 2, Raul.
What a great way to start the new season, dog.
Have a good season, guys. Have a good season. It's going to be great.
Thank you, brother.
Every Sunday, 3 p.m. Thank you, Fam Scallions. Thank you, Raul. We're going to close out with an original Rap Scallions rap song. The world keeps turning. Good night.
J-O-E in the place to be. HB on the track, it's like ecstasy. Rolling a well of 7 years, what we drink and be. Trying to sling the dopest rhymes in the galaxy. Let me take a minute though and relax your mind. Sometimes these words can be hard to find. 24/7 on that daily grind. Hearing voices in my head, man, they not that kind. Cause bitches be bitching, snitches keep snitching. The world keeps turning, and I keep hitching a ride. Instead of living my life. Yo, 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 yo.
Man, when you feel hungry, don't you have to eat?
Yo, yo, pump up the volume and digest this beat.
Rap Scallions in the house with this lyrical treat.
When we're done with you, you're gonna ice your feet.
If the world ends tomorrow and you had one chance,
Hey, yo, would you start the move like it's your last dance?
yo, do something small in the past and present changes.
Do something now, the future rearranges.
Cause bitches keep bitching.
Yo, snitches keep snitching.
The world keeps turning.
And you start living your life instead of hitching a ride. Rapscallions.